this is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and this is the Huawei P10, the latest, well, and one of the few nice small Android phones on the market. It's getting harder and harder to find a 5.1-inch phone. That's what the Huawei P10 is, but it doesn't compromise on specs. You get those wonderful dual cameras with the Leica rear lenses on. There's a fast Huawei Kirin processor inside, and a lot more. Go ahead and look at it now. So this is the Huawei P10, just going to be available now the end of March 2017, and it's the company's rapid-fire release of new models. We just reviewed the Mate 9 recently, which is a physically much bigger phone, and I think less pretty, but hey, same cameras on the Mate 9, so we're going to say pretty much the same things when it comes to the cameras, other than the obvious horizontal placement here versus the vertical placement on the Mate 9 model. First off, it's a very, very good-looking metal and glass phone, and it really bears a striking resemblance to a certain fruity phone right here, minus the antenna line, since Apple has now managed to hide those in some colors. This is available in the black color that we have here. It's also available in dazzling white, they call it. It's available in a color called greenery. Have you ever heard of a phone available in greenery? We applaud the fact that you can get this in so many colors. There's a dazzling blue color, which is pretty darn zingy, and a gold color. The dazzling blue and the gold color have a hyper diamond cut finish that creates more of a sense of ridges on the edges, and that's a good thing because, like the iPhone 7, it's kind of very thin and a bit slippery, so I do worry a bit about dropping it. Other than that, though, it seems pretty durable. The black model does show fingerprints here, and it's just a pleasing phone, and it's very small and very light. So for those of you who are really not into the 5.5-inch and above smartphones, you want something that fits in your smaller hands and your smaller pockets, well, this is certainly worth a look. Should sell for somewhere around $500 in the United States. There's also a plus size model. That is the P10 Plus. That gets you a 5.5-inch display if you do like it bigger. Ups the resolution from Full HD here to QHD. You get a bit bigger battery inside as well, and a faster lens on the back. Go figure. I don't know why that happens. And the bigger size is about $50 more. In the United States, this will be sold as an unlocked phone. If you're in the UK, then it'll be available via some carriers, including carrier payment plans available. And obviously in Huawei's home country of China, they're doing pretty well, actually, in Europe and in Asia, selling a lot of phones, over 10 million for one of their recent phones, in fact. So doing well. Lots of LTE bands here. We'll list those out in the description section of the video. It's too many to rattle off here, but everything that you want. This is not a CDMA phone. The only CDMA band it has is for China Telecom. So that means if you're Sprint or Verizon, this isn't for you. If you're AT&T and T-Mobile, and there are many little offshoot carriers and MVNOs, it is for you. LTE 4G. And in the UK, it supports Wi-Fi calling and voice over LTE. I'm running this with a T-Mobile SIM, and I haven't seen those features enabled here, though. Inside, we have Huawei's own capable Kirin processor. Same one as in the Mate 9, so we're going to say, again, pretty much the same things there. It holds up well with the Snapdragon 820 and 821. In fact, it often on benchmark scores a little bit better on CPU, but it's a little bit behind on graphics, but still strong enough performance to make it one of the faster phones. That's a 2.4 gigahertz octa-core processor for high power, for low power cores. Ours has 4 gigs of RAM and 64 gigs of storage, and there's a microSD card slot. The microSD card slot pops out right here, and it's also a nano SIM card holder. It's a dual nano SIM. And the second SIM slot on this doesn't have 4G LTE. It's really designed mostly for voice, and if you put in the SD card, well, there's no room for the second SIM card in there. There's a fingerprint scanner on the front, which is, I find, more desirable because you don't have to pick up the phone to unlock it, and a separate power button. So unlike LG, where they're one and the same, this is separate. Very quick, very effective. The fingerprint scanner works quite well on this. This is not water and dust resistant, however, this phone, which is a shame. Otherwise, standard design power button volume controls. We have a standard headphone jack, supports 24-bit audio if you're into higher quality audio. Mono speaker here, louder and clearer than average. This is one loud little phone. And your usual USB-C charging connector here. Now it's USB 2.0 protocol. Here goes all the confusion with USB-C. That actually is possible, and most phones are USB 2.0 using a USB-C connector. It supports Huawei's version of fast charging, and it does indeed charge very quickly, but you have to use their included charger and cable. That's because the fast charging circuitry is in the charger rather than in the phone. That allows them to make a smaller phone, and the heat is held in the charger for the fast charging versus inside the phone. This is running Android 7 Nougat with their usual EMUI, their Emotion UI 5.1, which is getting scaled back every time we see it. And that's a good thing because it was overbearing, over the top, and kind of remade a whole lot of sections of Android, including the notifications shade area that just didn't really need to be remade. Now you got normal looking stuff going on here. Thank goodness. So you can actually customize the home button so it functions as your navigation button, and that's just too hard to remember. Gestures and stuff like that to equal back or multitasking, I'd rather go with just the normal on-screen option, which thankfully is here and was the default out of the box. So, and you can even switch which side your back versus multitasking buttons are on. One nice thing is a lot of stuff is customizable here. You got things like app twins. So if you want to have WhatsApp and Facebook and have two separate accounts, they're going to help you out with that. For the home screen, you can go with the all apps on the home screen or the normal drawer thing, which is what I've opted for, which is standard Android. You have theming here as well. And the way they do it is to have you pinch if you want to customize the home screen, so you got access to your wallpapers. And it comes with a nice selection of wallpapers too. You got transitions, quick access to settings, your widgets, all that sort of thing. So I never was a fan of their software before. Now I have no problems with it. It's not bad at all. Though this is a skinny little metal phone with a fast CPU inside, it gets warm if you're doing something like playing 3D games or benchmarking, but it doesn't get uncomfortably hot, which is nice. Likewise, when charging, it doesn't get too hot because, well, the fast charging circuitry is inside of your charger. The display on this is really lovely. Again, this is one of the stock wallpapers here, and it's quite pretty. It's full HD. It's not QHD, which is fine because this is only a 5.1-inch display. That's 432 ppi. That's very high resolution. But the colors on this are very vibrant. At first, I almost thought it was AMOLED. It was just really a pleasure to look at, and it's bright enough to see easily outdoors. I was doing some photography in bright sunshine. No problem at all seeing it. One thing about the display, though, beautiful and saturated though it may be, I mean, look at those colors there. This is an IPS display. It is not an AMOLED display or an OLED display, so the refresh rates aren't fast enough to support Google Daydream VR for those of you who are actually looking to use your phone with VR goggles. And we got a nice little chamfering here where the glass meets the metal. All in all, just attention to detail is excellent here. You've got your standard connectivity inside, Wi-Fi 11 AC, NFC is supported, Bluetooth 4.2, and we have the dual cameras and a new upgraded front 8-megapixel camera, which has its own portrait mode. And you know, I'm gonna go into photography and samples in depth, but this is one of the few front cameras where I haven't absolutely hated the way I looked. It really is a pretty good front camera. The camera UI is also very good. There's a lot of features here, and I think a lot of times folks don't ever use them because they're not so intuitive and easy to access. This stuff is fairly self-explanatory, or you're going to tap it and try to figure out. Here's the portrait mode, and what that does is it creates fake bokeh. It tries to make everything in the background blurred while the object here is in sharp focus, and we'll go over that in a minute too. And you've got your front and back camera switching. You've got various color modes like every camera in the world, camera phone in the world has. And if you swipe this way, here's all of your settings. Easy enough. And if you swipe this way, here's different modes, including monochrome, because we have two cameras on the back here. One of them is a 20-megapixel monochrome camera, and the other one is a 12-megapixel color camera. And they combine that data to make very high-resolution images, and it also increases the dynamic range as well. Again, the same thing is on the Mate 9, and you got your two-tone flash right there. Leica branded there. They call it co-engineered with Leica. It's f2.2 lens, which is decent but not super fast. If you go with the bigger model, you'll actually get an even faster lens. This does support OIS. It does have 4K video recording as well. Obviously, we have HDR mode, panorama, everything you would want, slow motion, even document scanning. It's pretty full featured. So let's take a look at some pictures and see how it does. So let's see how the photos look. I'm using a 27-inch 4K monitor right here to show these, and this is actually a low light photo taken at night just with the overhead light turned on, and it's actually pretty good. It did a very good job with the colors here, better than I usually see, and the colors are actually pretty accurate. You do see some blotchiness and watercolory kind of look that happens in low light, but overall that's pretty good. And of course, this is monochrome, so we have a couple of different monochrome shots here. Nice enough. I would have liked actually a little bit more contrast maybe, but that's just fine. Now there's the portrait mode, and this is falling short so far of what the iPhone can do. It, for some reason, decides to very much exaggerate colors, particularly the background. It's blurred them out. It's created halo effects on the edges here, so that's not so awesome. Eh, let's move in a little bit more. Yeah, well, it's not terrible, but particularly what it's doing with the color and the exposure there is not very good. Another version, just so you can see it wasn't a one-off. Oopsie. Now this is a little bit easier. This actually kind of looks nice. It did kind of overdo the colors in this area over here, but the Buddha looks sharp. There's not so much distinct haloing around him, and that let me make a unique shot. Now, for the flowers here, a red rose or a magenta rose often tends to blow out with any camera. This is pretty decent, just as good as the LG G6 did, actually. But if you switch to portrait mode here, say you want to try to isolate the front flowers or something, here's what it does. See what I mean? It has totally amped the contrast to, what, 250%? That just looks nasty, nasty, nasty. Now, the new 8 megapixel front camera, this is the first time I haven't just died when looking at a selfie of myself. This is not bad, and the usual wide angle distortion isn't even that bad. It makes my big nose even bigger, sure, but as these go, this is pretty nice, and the fall off effect of the focus without even using a special effect looks really good. And our gnome we always take pictures of. We've used this for several camera phones, so if you just want to see the difference, this looks absolutely just fine. Phone has a 3200 milliamp battery. That's pretty big for a phone this teeny. Of course, it does have a pretty powerful CPU inside, so you can see that the battery UI looks here. We got power saving mode options, ultra. Looking at power intensive apps, you can get battery usage details, all that sort of stuff. So it's pretty granular in terms of the information that's here. But what does it all boil down to? This has pretty darn good battery life. Again, small screen phone really helps, large battery. Absolutely, 5 hours of screen on time is certainly possible with this phone. Doing everyday average normal things, not playing Implosion here for 3 hours or something like that, but the normal stuff you do, making some phone calls, the web, email, social networking, taking some photos, that sort of thing. I couldn't kill this in less than a day, so good times there. And if you get the bigger one, you can move up in battery capacity to 3750 milliamps. Which, you know, you're going to need more power too because it'll be a bigger screen and a higher resolution one at that. So what's to like about the phone? Well, it is small and compact and really gorgeous looking and available in a whole bunch of different colors. The cameras are pretty darn good, but you know what? I would say the LG G6, Galaxy S7, and the iPhone 7 are still tops when it comes to balancing exposure correctly, and that portrait mode right now is a nice idea, but blows out colors in such a weird way. I'm not loving it so much. It's a fast phone too, so you're not compromising by going with a smaller phone. Performance is excellent on this. It's fine for games, all that sort of thing. Call quality and data speeds very good on this, and that's nice too, because often carrier optimized phones do a little bit better, but here it did equally as well. Price is nice too. You're going to save some money compared to the most expensive flagship phones on the market. What's not to like so much? Well, again, the camera software could use some tweaking, though I have to say I love the user interface of it. It's just some adjustments for color exposure, that sort of thing. For people in the United States, obviously, most of you like to go with carrier phones and carrier payment plans, and carriers won't be offering that, so that's going to hurt. If you're on Sprint and Verizon, well, it's not the phone for you at all. Beyond that, there's really very little to complain about here, and mostly stuff to like. So that's the Huawei P10. It's going to be available March 31st, I think first in Europe and Asia, later in the United States. And the price isn't bad, probably around $500 or so, $550 if you want to go to the plus size model. But I think the endearing thing here is actually getting a 5.1-inch phone that has really good specs, a beautiful looking design, a nice display. These days it's getting hard to find. And the Galaxy S8, as we've just discovered, the S7 size is gone now. You either get huge or huger for the phone. So this one is, well, really nice. The cameras on the back are very good and very competitive. The monochrome camera is certainly fun. I wouldn't say it's going to beat out the Galaxy S7 or S8 or the iPhone for camera quality, but the fact that it's even up there is pretty impressive, especially given the fact you're saving some money. The display on this is really very colorful and very sharp. It's fast as all get out. The battery life is good, and the design is actually pretty beautiful. I'm liking what Huawei's doing. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more cool tech videos, and thumbs up if you like this vid.